Hi, I'm Mark from L&M Small Engines. Today we're working on a Cub Cadet. It's an LTX 1042. The reason they brought it in here, they're mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden they heard a bang, and the thing started running wide open. It's a Kohler Courage 20 horsepower single cylinder engine in it. Yesterday I brought it in the shop and I took the carburetor off because sometimes the shaft on the butterfly for the throttle, sometimes they break or wear out, and that could make it run wide open. But I checked all that, and the carburetor's fine. And I see he wired. I'll show you when I get the engine on the table, but they put a wire on the throttle so it opens up a little bit. I'm surprised the motor didn't blow because these Kohler Courage engines, they're not made for high RPM. So when we tear it apart, I think it's the governor broke in there. We'll go ahead and take the motor out, split the motor, and see if we can fix it. So hope you enjoy the video. First thing we'll do is we'll take the hood off, lift this thing up, and we'll start unhooking everything. Well, we'll start unhooking stuff on it. On this side here, we're going to unhook the wire from the starter, unplug the wiring harness, then we'll go to the other side and unhook the fuel line and the throttle cable and stuff. We got to go underneath and drop the front of the deck to get the pulley off, and the motor should come right up, hopefully. It's like that's 7/16. Yeah, be careful when we pull these loose, kind of hold the wire, because sometimes these nuts are on there really tight and the whole thing will turn, and it could ruin your brushes inside of the starter. So we'll put the nut back on the starter so we don't lose it. And unhook the wiring harness here. Just squeeze these two clips and pop right out. Now let's go over the other side. Then when we get it over the table, then I'll drain the oil and everything on the table, because on these Kohlers, if you tip it upside down, all the oil will run out through the breather and make a big mess. So we'll drain the oil when we get the motor off. I put a fuel shut off when I take the fuel line off, because the tank's right above the motor. It's a gravity fed. Let's take the cable off. I'm gonna go grab a marker. I'm gonna mark both sides of this cable so we know about where to put it when we put it back together again. And if you don't do that, it's not that hard to figure out how to adjust the throttle cable on these. We just put a mark on that side and a mark on this side, we kind of have a ballpark on where to put it. Okay, now we gotta unhook. It's like a vapor line, I guess what you call it. Now the fuel line. And I got a fuel shut off here. We're gonna pop on there so we don't waste the gas. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and put the brake clutch on so it loosens up. It keeps the transmission belt loose on the pulley up front, so it's a lot easier to take it on and off. So we gotta take this bracket off here as it keeps the deck belt on. It's like a 1/2 inch. And the pulley, that's a 5/8. There's a space around here. Can't lose that. Okay, now jack a bit more and we'll take the motor bolts out. There's 4 of them. Okay, now let's lower it back down. Now we gotta take this muffler shroud off real quick. Looks like that's a 10 millimeter. And there we go. Now we're gonna take it to the table, drain the oil, and go and split the motor. Okay, oil is nice and clean. It's nice clean oil. I'll show you how they wired this up. I don't know how long they ran it that way. I took the air filter out. That's why there ain't no air filter. They put this wire thing on here so it only opens up like a quarter throttle. But anyways, we'll flip that thing over and we'll take the bottom pan off. And hopefully just the governor. So I do have a governor here, so. Okay, let's go ahead and remove this top shroud now. There's 4 bolts to hold that on. You know, you can change these governors with the motor still in the lawnmower, but the reason I took this one out so I can film it better, and there's just other issues I want to check out on the carburetor here. See how this bolt here is loose? I want to see why that is. And you know, they got this little Mickey Mouse thing on there, and plus when I get this apart I want to make sure there's no cracks on the top of the block, because like the pan on these is like opposite of like a single cylinder Briggs, like the pan's down here and everything, but actually the pan's on top of these Kohler carriages. That's why I have the motor out. There's just other issues I want to check out, plus it's easier to film this way and I can show you some more stuff. But you can do this when the motor is still in the lawnmower, just letting you know on that. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take this fan off the flywheel. 15 millimeter. Well, it's on there tight, ain't it? Pop that off. And we're going to take this big thick washer off. We'll hand tighten that down all the way down. And we need to take the coil off next. That's either 5/16 or an 8 millimeter. And we'll just set that off. I'm going to put our screws back in here. You can't take the flywheel off until you take that coil off because of the starter gears. And you could either, there's holes to use a wheel puller, but on these here, what we're going to do, we're just going to put a pry bar in under here and just tap on this top bolt, and it should just pop right off. But yeah, I was thinking about doing it when it was in on the lawnmower, but after I saw that stuff that they did and everything, and these motors are known to, these top plates are known to loosen up and stuff, and sometimes they crack and stuff. I just want to double check everything. That's why when you have it on the table, you can see more stuff. So we're going to push up on this. And there we go. And we gotta make sure we don't lose that flywheel key. Here's the flywheel key. Then before we put this back on, I'm going to clean out around all these magnets and blow it out really good so it charges really good. Now we got to take this throttle assembly off. There's two forks, I believe are like what, T30 it looks like. So we can take this throttle assembly off. And if you loosen them up, you can adjust your speed with that. Pull it forward and then rev up higher and stuff. But these Kohler Courage motors, they're not, they can't handle high RPM. I'm surprised they didn't blow this thing up, especially doing this here and keep on running it. Don't let none of the springs get unhooked. We'll put our screws back in. Now let me turn this around a little bit here. I'm gonna go ahead and take the starter off next. Then we're gonna unhook these wires right here because this whole pan's gonna come off. And this looks like a 10 millimeter. Little bolts holding that starter on there. Look at how small them are. Now we want to take our alternator off. Here's our voltage regulator right here. It's like two 5/16 or 8 millimeter. So we can unplug the alternator there. You can leave the alternator on, but you really don't want to damage it. That's copper wire all wrapped up. It has a special coating on it, so it's not, the electricity is not jumping from one roll to the other. They have like some kind of a varnish on them. The current can't jump. I'll let this unplug that. Now in order to get this through here, we're gonna unhook these two white ones so this wires can go up through that hole. And just use like a little flat screwdriver. You just push it in there to push down on that clip that holds it in there. There we go. There's little clips, have little tabs on them. That's what holds into place. So we pull them back out, put that little tab back up. So we push it into place, it will lock into place. And we're gonna blow that off really good too. We put it back together. Okay, now we're all right to take this pan off. I'm gonna blow it off really good. And all these are 10 millimeter. We better take that plug out too after I blow it off. We'll go ahead and take that plug out. That way there's no compression there when if we need to turn the crank or something, we're putting it back together again. A lot of bolts there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're all the same size. It don't matter if you get them mixed up or not. Looks like we got everything off. So we'll take the hammer now and just gently tap on that. And there we go. Plastic gears in here. There's 2 dots on the timing gear on the crank. And we can't lose this washer here because this goes on your decompression on the intake side. And I see our governor gear down here. Grab something long so I can grab that. And there it is. It's missing one flipper on the side. That's another reason why I like to have the motor up on the table and really looking. You got to make sure you get all them broken parts out of there so they don't cause some other damage somewhere on the line. Yeah, it's sitting over on this side over here. There we go. Let me grab a magnet. And here's our other part. You gotta make sure you get all your broken parts out. That oil's remarkably nice and clean. And there's where the governor rides on. Let's turn that crank. Okay, there's a dot on the plastic gear and a dot on the timing gear. Same with the other side. Now I'm going to remove this gasket. Make sure that's all nice and clean. And clean the gasket off the top piece. And we'll insert that new governor and put the thing back together again. Okay, clean the gasket all off, and I fished out the rest of the parts. And I noticed this is the pin, part of the pin that the governor sits on. It's actually broke. It's supposed to go right there. So I gotta try ordering that pin right there. So we're not gonna be able to finish this today. Now the pin that the governor sits on broke. But I fished all the parts out. Here's that little pin that held this weight on. So I guess I'm stuck right now. I have to order some parts. So when I get the parts, we'll finish this project. Okay, I got the new governor shaft in the mail today, so we're going to continue working on this Kohler Courage 20. And here's where it's at, and the top's broke off of it. And underneath, there's the hole where it goes in. It's not very often I change these, but it happens occasionally. And what I like to do is just gently heat up around it just a little bit, just kind of like expand that aluminum just a little bit. Do it on both sides. It's just a little bit easier to pop it out because you definitely don't want to break this pan. See what happens. Okay, let's flip it over. Here we go, it's a center punch. And that's how you pop her out. Now, being that's still warm and everything, I'm going to go ahead and take this out, spray a little carburetor cleaner, get any oil off of that, make it nice and clean. And the long end, that's what goes in there. You don't want to put it in this way. It goes in this way. Just make sure that shaft's nice and clean. Put a little bit of Loctite on that. And while that aluminum's still needs to be flush. And there we go. See how it's nice and flush? And that's what you do. That heat trick kind of expands that cast aluminum a little bit, so it's a lot easier to lot easier to put in. That's just a little trick I learned. All right, well, that's cooling. We're going to go ahead and take the valve cover off the engine because I think that one push rod popped out when I took that exhaust cam out of there. And we've gotten this far. Heck, we might as well do it. Might as well do it right. So let's go ahead and move this motor a little bit. Looks like that's 10 millimeter. I think them are glued on too. Well, it's half gasket, half glue. It's no big deal. You got a little gasket sealed on the rocker arm, but that ain't no big deal. Okay, let's go back over the timing gears now. Gotta make them dots line up. There's a dot right here, and a dot right here, and a dot right here, and a dot right there. There's a decompression on the exhaust valve cam. Okay, now we'll grab a gasket. And when we put it on, we gotta be careful because for the balancer thing, it kind of moves around, so make sure that gets in the hole in the pan. And these two have to meet up. Okay, now we can put the pan gasket on. And you line up these little pins. Just like that. And these pan bolts, I'm going to Loctite them in there because these front ones have a habit of loosening themselves up. And we don't want to do that. So the next step is to put the governor gear on. And we got to put this little pan on too for the oil. So what you do is you just take your time. Just like that there. These are 8 millimeter. Okay. Make sure it's nice and clean where that pan gasket's gonna be. And there's the governor gear kit, 2531009-S. And these kits, these are for the single cylinders and they're for the twin cylinders. If you have a twin cylinder, you use these for spacers for the gear, and the single cylinder, we use this here. For the single, this is what we took out in pieces on the other one, you know. And just click it into place. And as the motor speeds up, the weight spreads out, and that's what slows it down, keeps it from revving up and blowing, but it locks into place. Okay, that hole, that hole, that hole, and that hole, I'm just gonna put just a dab, some lithium grease on there. I use that white lithium. Now in here, they had this all screwed up. You know that wire they put on the carburetor? Well, they turned this thing's like 180 degrees off, because when this pan is in there, this should be about right there. and this linkage should be like over here. So when we get this all together, we're gonna have to adjust the governor linkage so we don't blow it up right after we get it put back together again. Kind of rock it down into place. Okay, now we're going to install the bolts to the pan. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these bolts because they do have a habit of vibrating loose, and we don't want that to happen. All these bolts are the same size, so okay, we can go ahead and torque them down. Just kind of go crisscross. There's really no torque spec on these. You just want them tight. Okay, now we can go ahead and put the stator on, or alternator. Okay, and on the alternator over here, these will go on the two outside clips for the voltage regulator. And you gotta pull out these little tabs so they stick back in there. Push it in there till it locks. And then we're 5/16 here. I'm gonna put a paper towel in where the oil goes for now. I wanna get no junk in there. Now the starter. I just can't believe that big high torque starter has little studs on them. Just be careful on them. You don't over torque them and break them studs. Okay, on the flywheel, these are magnets. I'm gonna go take outside and blow all this junk out of there so it's nice and clean. Okay, I blew it out and see how nice and clean it is now. Need to get our flywheel key. Get the hole lined up there. Your flywheel key. Okay, now we're gonna do the coil. It's a lot of stuff to do, but you just take your time. When I time this or gap this kind of stuff, I was like using a regular old business card. There we go. I'll go grab a new plug. This plug here, not that great a shape. Make sure it clicks. Put that valve cover back on. Okay, now I'm gonna flip the motor around. We have to readjust the governor linkage because they had it all out of whack. Do that. We're gonna change oil filter and put fresh oil in there. We got her about done. Well, they have it's like 180 degrees off. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish. We're gonna loosen that up and turn that around and get everything all lined up. I'm gonna put a couple of nuts on that for now, hold that into place so we get everything adjusted. Okay, I'm just gonna loosen this up and get it turned around a little bit. We'll fine adjust it when we get all the linkage and everything hooked up to it. But we had that top pan off, that spoon on this governor shaft. So you can hear it like pushing up the governor now. They had this thing turned 180 degrees off. So we'll just get it close this way. Get our choke hooked up here. And the spring goes there. Kind of put it where it was. You can turn it up like this, that speeds it up. Okay, now on the governor, you want the throttle wide open. And you want to turn that spoon inside all the way up. Just like that. So you want the throttle wide open, then the shaft, you turn it all the way up so that spoon comes up to the governor. And that should do it. As simple as that. Now we can finish putting stuff on it. See, they got the throttle turned all the way up too to back that down. Get our 10mm nuts put on there. Get that air vent put on. that vent up in the valve cover. Okay, now I'm gonna replace that oil filter. The oil didn't look too bad in there, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put a new oil filter on there and fresh oil. It's hand tight. It's all you need. Go grab some oil here real quick. I got a little bit over 1/4, a little bit under 1/4. And once you get it running and the oil filter fills up and everything, then I'm gonna recheck it. Well, here that goes. Oh heck, I think we're about ready to bolt this back on the lawnmower. I got the clutch parking brake on so that transmission belt is loose. That's why I don't want to roll forward very easy. Okay, you gotta get one of them motor bolts started. Once we get that started, it'll be easier putting the rest of the bolts in. Okay, got the screwdriver in one hole so we can pivot the motor. I have to lower it down a little bit. Try doing it up like this so I can show you, but it's not working out that good. Just gotta get one bolt started. Okay, I got a bolt started. I thought I'd try to do it up in there so you could see what I was doing, but it's a lot easier to start one bolt when the motor is pretty much flat. So let's get these 4 bolts on there and tightened up. Okay, got the 4 bolts. Hold the motor on. Now let's grab that pulley. Okay, this had that spacer that goes on first. There we go. Got the transmission belt down. Now I can go and take the brake off for now. Okay, let's go ahead and tighten that up. That's a 5/8 socket. Now we gotta put this on here. This is to keep it loose till we get that deck belt put on, because that's what holds the belt on the pulley when the blade's not engaged. So I'll go ahead and lift up on the now I gotta grab a 1/2-inch socket and tighten that hanger up. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and lower it a little bit. Keep it up in there so you can see how I hook everything up. Then we'll fire it up. Okay, now we gotta hook up the starter wire and the plug in and the throttle and stuff on the other side, and it should be ready to start up. So we'll plug the wiring harness in. It only goes on one way. Starter wire. Okay, let's go to the other side and hook up the throttle cable and the fuel line and stuff. Put the clamp on. Okay. Now this vent tube. Now the throttle. That's either a 5/16 or 8mm. Okay, I'm going to put in the choke position and pull the cable back for the choke to engage. And there we go. If you want to get it running, if it's running too low, you can loosen up these two torque screws and slide it to tighten the governor spring, and it'll run. But I just put it back where the two bolts were before. You could see the rings. And I don't even know how long this motor ran with that governor broke like that, so I'm sure this motor don't want to see no more high RPMs for a while. Set it down and start it up. I guess the worst that could happen is it don't run, but I'm thinking positive. And once you know the battery is dead now, I'm going to put the charger on the battery and we'll try it again. I let that old battery charge about 2 hours and it must have a dead cell in it, so I put a brand new battery in it. Kind of curious to see if this thing even runs. Thing runs great now. I know this video is kind of a long one, but I wanted to show you a bunch of different steps and all this kind of stuff we had doing this motor. So hope it helped you out. Appreciate you watching my videos. If you like my videos, please press the like button and please subscribe. Anyway, guys, have a good evening now.